it cracked up. Like, clearly, pay me more money to get back in the office is not just about banks. But the idea that, like, it seems like the workers have a little bit more power, particularly in the financial sector in the UK, than they do here in the US.
Yeah, that's certainly an interesting point because we're seeing deal markets really still at record levels and the biggest banks wanting to gain that share. And so to do that, the question of returning to the office to win those deals and to win that business is pretty paramount right now. If you're over at Citigroup, they believe that it'll retain more workers and attract more workers by being more flexible. But clearly, you see through the survey that employees are even saying that if you pay me more, maybe I'll come in.
Right, so it doesn't make it like a permanent thing, but it does sort of maybe move the whole salary question more front and center, particularly as we just saw, what was it, the junior bankers are now going to get paid $15,000 more. BlackRock also talking about that.
Yeah, so the BlackRock's rise in wage is interesting to me because when I talk to my sources in the banking community, they say that investing is one of the biggest places they're seeing talent drain to because it's still a hot market. There's a lot of volatility. People are finding ways to make more money. So if that is true, then how will the bankers also respond? We're seeing that wage inflation at a lot of banks on the lower end of the spectrum. You still see banks like Goldman Sachs saying they're going to pay for performance, but performance is up. At the end of the day, it's going to be a calculus. How much do you pay your employees? How many employees do you hire into the end of the year? And also remember, the other biggest cost base we're hearing both from banks and asset managers is their real estate footprint. If they can lower costs through their real estate footprint shrinking, then perhaps they can pay their employees what they want to be seen to come into the office.
I wonder how long you think it's going to take for us to know who did it right.
I think it'll take years, right?
Yeah.
I think some of it you're seeing now because who's going to gain market share in the hottest markets we've seen in many years, right? That's one way to tell how this is going to work out. But also attrition is not going to start right now, although it already is, by the way. We're hearing from recruiters that September will be a big tell because once bankers are going to be asked to come back to the office in bigger form in the United States, that they're going to have those hard conversations with their bosses in which they'll say, hey, you know, I'm getting flexibility and more pay over here, so I'm going to ask the same thing of you.
Right, and I want to just kind of end on that in terms of, do bankers now, especially if you're younger, care about being compensated differently in that if they can get paid less or just the same without the increase, but they can work at home. It is more flexible. They have a hybrid thing. Like, does that now mean more to the junior bankers than just getting straight out $100,000?
Well, let me make a trade-off for you. If I'm a junior banker and I have a job offer at, you know, JP Morgan or elsewhere for $100,000, or I could work for a high-flying startup and get some equity as they go public, I don't know, right? It depends on who you are, depends on your risk aversion, but at the same time, in business schools across the country, you're seeing young people make these trade-offs. There's another perk, Alex. There's that $100,000 you get, and then there's that bonus you also get from analyst to associate, the A to A bonus, they call it. Now also is rising. We've seen $200,000 in some cases. So young people being handed a lot of money.
That is a lot. I was not making that money at 23.